Hey everybody, my name is Wayman Daniels and I'm the host of the Level Up podcast. I have a wonderful guest today, Mr. Keith from One Tribe Properties. Hey Keith, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Wayman. Thanks.
Man, that's awesome, man. Just introduce yourself to the people, please.
My name is Keith Mayfield. I am the founder and CEO of One Tribe Properties, and I know you and I are going to talk a little bit more in depth about it, but just at a high level, we are an organization that is focused on dignity and respect
Okay.
for all human beings. One of our main priorities is to help our people achieve financial stability
Okay.
and wealth.
Well, when you talk about financial stability, where is the disconnect between people when it comes to financial the disconnect? Oh man, I don't messed up already. The disconnect between financial stability, which I'm gonna edit that anyway.
Yeah. So, if you look at the community, and you look at our community and you compare it to other communities,
Yes.
you'll see that there's a lot less organization in our community.
Right.
So that's really a part of what One Tribe is looking to solve for, is how can we organize and work together
Right.
to achieve goals.
Okay. So what does that disorganization look like in our community? Because some people are trying to figure out, let's say, what is the disconnect with the organization? What are we lacking?
Yeah.
Is it information? Is it structure? And if it's both of them, just tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and I think what you just described, I think it's all of the above. I think it's a lack of information, lack of structure,
Right.
and a lack of unity.
Okay.
So one easy way to describe it or to give an example is, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but if you look at the Jewish community, for example, and I bring up the Jewish community because they are really into real estate.
Right.
And so One Tribe Properties in real estate. But if you look at the Jewish community, they work together almost naturally to buy properties.
Right.
So you'll see that Jewish people own like tons and tons of properties and buildings, and it's just a part of what they do.
Right.
So the unity and the organization has been established over generations.
Right. Right.
If you look at our community, we really celebrate the individual. So you'll see a basketball player that he's got millions of dollars and he owns all kinds of things, and we're rooting them on, which is good. That's
Right.
positive. But what about the rest of the community? Where is the opportunity for the rest of us to build wealth?
Right.
So that's really where.
Well, Keith, I look at when you talked about the basketball player, the football player, or whomever we might be lifting up to a standard to say, look at him, and we celebrate them, just like we celebrated Barack Obama for becoming the first black president, but we never put in the work so that we can follow them. We're
Right.
celebrating people that's already there, but we're forgetting how do we get there. That disconnect for me is heartfelt.
Yes.
Because I see a lot of our people always walking around talking about Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. They're billionaires. Kobe Bryant is no longer here. But we're glorifying people and making them gods for hitting the pinnacle of success, but yet we're in poverty. So let's talk about this for a moment because we're talking about the black church. The black church, since you bring up the Jewish culture, the black church brings in an annual income altogether in the United States of $11 billion. They teach the parishioners how to give to God, but they never teach them how to be wealthy. Why is that such a disconnect?
Right. Yeah. I can't really speak for the church, but I know I agree with what you're saying, and I know that exists.
Yes.
So I can't say why they do that, but what I can say is that One Tribe was developed for the specific purpose of helping folks who want to build wealth
Right.
do it in our community.
Okay.
So and just give me a second to talk about that a little bit, because One Tribe actually, so it's two things. One Tribe is a concept,
Right.
and it's a company. So the concept, the One Tribe concept, is simple. We believe that every human being should be treated with dignity and respect.
Right.
Very simple.
Okay.
Now, we say, hey, if you agree with that statement, then you are a member of One Tribe.
Okay. Right.
Simple.
Right.
It's
right.
not, so you think everybody should be treated with dignity and respect. We're all one tribe, all human beings together. So that's the concept. And then there's One Tribe, the company. So we took that concept and we said, what can we do with this? There's so many things we could do. One thing we decided to start with is, how about what if we build a structure,
Okay.
so that people within our community can own our community.
Right.
So, for example, right now we hear people sometimes say, hey, well, the Asians own all the wig stores,
Right,
and
right.
the Arabs own all the corner stores, and they complain.
Right.
But the truth is, we have an opportunity. What if we didn't complain about those people owning those stores, and we celebrated them? Because guess what? What if we own the building that those stores are in?
Right.
So we want them to succeed because they need to pay us their rent.
Right. Right.
So that's the One Tribe concept. So what we are is a real estate syndication
Okay.
organization, which means that we pull people together to buy commercial real estate,
Okay.
mainly build apartment buildings and commercial spaces in the inner city.
Right. Okay.
Because we want to own our space again.
Right. Okay.
So the way it works is really very simple. And part of my background is I am a former financial advisor.
Okay.
I had my Series 6 and 63, sold mutual funds, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a part of the background of this. But the way it works is relatively simple. And I'll just give a simple example. So we say, all right, there's an apartment building downtown Rochester. And let's say it's got 100 apartment units and it's got 10 stores on the bottom. We want to own that building. Let's say that building costs $5 million.
Right.
What One Tribe does is we become the hub, or the general partner, and we say, all right, hey, we're gonna pull a bunch of people together. So we say, hey, Wayman, you can buy shares, and you can own a part of this building.
Right.
And we find 100 other people, or however many other number of people we needed to get to the $5 million. We bring those people together. We get our $5 million, and we go and we buy the building.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
everybody who purchased a share in that is now a part owner of that building.
Right.
You get dividends every month,
Right.
and when and if we sell the building, you get your payout.
Right.
So it's a relatively simple concept, and then we just continue to do that, to work together.
Right.
So One Tribe is all about let's just work together. Now, the one caveat to that is there's lots of people within our community who will say, you know what, Keith, that sounds like a great idea. I would love to be a part of that.
Right.
Only problem is, how much does it cost to buy in?
Right.
So most, and One Tribe is certainly not the only real estate investment syndication firm. So most real estate syndication firms, the typical buy-in amount is $50,000 or more. You have to have at least $50,000 or more to buy in,
Okay.
typically. And with One Tribe, we wanted to lower that barrier.
Okay.
So it's $5,000.
Right. Okay.
So if you have $5,000, you can buy in.
Okay.
5, 10, 15, 20,000. Now, because of our community and the audience and the people that we want involved, we also know that there are still some people who say, "Hey, man, I'd love to be involved, but I don't have $5,000."
Right.
So we developed, and this was an intentional. We are being very purposeful and intentional about how we set this up. We set up a thing called the Wealth Builders Program.
Okay.
So you say, hey, everything you said sounds great. I want to own a piece of my community.
Right.
I want to be a part of that whole thing, but I don't have $5,000, so I'll sit on the side. No, you don't have to sit on the side. Right. You can join our Wealth Builders Program. Our Wealth Builders Program is very simple. If you contribute $100, at least a minimum of $100 per month,
Right.
we will automatically deduct that out of your account on your behalf and put it aside until you get to the 5,000. So you can do $100, $200, $500, whatever you can afford. You put that into our Wealth Builders account that we hold in a separate account for you. And we will allow it to accumulate to once you get to the 5,000, we'll take that and invest it in the newest property that we're investing in on your behalf. So we want everyone in our community to have an opportunity to participate.
Well, Keith, let's talk about this because you're talking about the wealth building project. But what happens? Let's just talk about the language. Because the community that we're talking about coming in is our own community. And a lot of us don't understand the language or the verbiage that's associated with what you're talking about, this type of success. Does One Tribe Properties have a mentorship program to teach the person the language, the do's and don'ts, and how to learn this stuff in what we're talking about? Do they have a chance to learn that through a mentorship program?
Well, we don't have a mentorship program per se, but what we do have is we have ongoing webinars.
Okay, right.
So that for that exact purpose of what you just said.
Right.
So we're going to talk here for a few minutes,
Right.
And we're going to touch on several different topics and
Right.
subjects. But if it's someone who's not familiar with those things,
Right.
they probably want a little deeper dive into
Right.
those topics. So that is where we have our quarterly webinars.
Okay.
And we invite and we love to have every listener come into a webinar, even if you're not ready to invest yet.
Right, right.
Come into the webinar and learn, ask questions. So it's back and forth.
Right.
So yes.
So when you talk about these webinars, let's just say a novice, again, going back to the novice who's interested in coming to the webinars, what would that topic be and what would it look like, that webinar?
So we have different topics each quarter.
Okay.
And we go from and by the way, the webinars are recorded.
Right.
So if you're not able to attend, you can go back and listen.
Right.
The benefit of attending a live webinar is that you can ask questions. Right. Your specific question can be answered. But if you listen to the recording, you probably still get lots and lots of information. So the webinar topics range from the basics of real estate investing and how the whole thing works to more complex topics. So which may involve property management. How do you make sure the building is taken care of? How do you make sure you collect the rents? Whatever. Okay. So we kind of go across the board on the topics and we try to help there.
Now I noticed that we're talking mainly about properties.
Yes.
And real estate. Now, are there other investment opportunities with One Tribe Properties or holdings?
No, not right now. We're laser focused on real estate.
On real estate. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you look at real estate and the history of it, most millionaires were made millionaires through real estate.
Right.
It is a very lucrative way to raise money.
Right.
So so myself coming from the financial advisory background, so I used to sell mutual fund and stocks as I mentioned before. And when you get into those and insurance and some very complex insurance products when you get into those types of investment instruments, the complexity, it can be very complex, and it's a whole lot of theoretical things that you need to understand. What I like about real estate, and apartment buildings in particular, is it's simple. Right. It's simple. Okay. You know what? You get paid. It's an apartment building. People live in the apartment building. Right. Those people pay rent. Right. How do you get your dividends? When the rent is paid, right. We take the rent money, we pay all the bills, we pay the light bill, whatever. Right. Whatever's left over, we have our expenses for the organization, and then we have whatever's left over from the rent, that's paid out in dividends to our investors. It's very simple. It's not something you have to, it's not some kind of theoretical. Right. You get a piece of the rent. And if and when we sell the building, you get a piece of the profit. So that's it. Right. It's very simple.
Well, you know what, Keith? You said something that it is simple, because even if you're renting an apartment now, you're dealing in real estate.
You are. Absolutely are.
You're dealing in real estate, And you don't even realize that you're dealing in real estate. So what you're doing right now as a renter, you can also do it as an investor in your own life. This game that they had put us as a child was called Monopoly.
Yes.
That game is what you're talking about.
Precisely.
You know what I mean?
Precisely.
So when I look at that game, the intention or intent of the game was to buy as much property as you can so you can get some residual income from those people
Right.
that's on your space.
That's exactly it.
And then, you know what? I like what you said, though. You were talking about billionaires and millionaires. This is how they became rich. Warren Buffett is a billionaire. He went to the city of Detroit, and I never forget this, and he said the reason that he's in Detroit is that when things die, buzzards show up.
Yep. That's right.
He bought all that property,
That's right.
condos and land,
That's right.
because he saw the future of investing in real estate, and he's still having residual income come in.
Well, so wait a minute. You just nailed the whole concept. So
Right.
you asked a question earlier, which was, "Hey, why do you do anything else?"
You're right.
We focused on real estate
Yeah.
because that is the most proven method
Right.
of wealth building. It's proven.
Right.
So you can buy. So we could literally buy a property
Right.
and just hold on to it
Right.
for 10 years.
Right.
Sell it after 10 years and make a whole bunch of money.
Right, right.
And do nothing else.
Right. Right.
So real estate is a proven wealth builder
Right.
that we know works. Now, if you just put a little bit of work and ingenuity into
Right,
it,
right.
so instead of just buying the property, doing nothing to it, holding it for 10 years,
Right, right.
and then selling it, which you
Right.
could do, instead of doing that, if you buy the property, and what we're doing
Right.
is we buy the property, we fix it up a little bit.
Right.
We can increase the rents a little bit. People don't mind paying a little more rent because
Right.
they're living in a better condition.
Right. Right.
At the same time, the property is appreciating in value. You are an owner in that.
Right. Right.
So you're getting your dividends each quarter.
Right.
You're getting paid already.
Right.
And then as the property appreciates in value, so let's say we bought it for $1 million. Let's say we kept it for 10 years.
Right.
And the property appreciated to $2.5 million in
Right.
10 years.
Right.
We sell it. So now we sell it. We got $1.5 million in profit.
Right.
Even more though because we paid down the mortgage.
Right.
But we'll just to keep it simple. Now we have $1.5 million that we're going to split amongst the investors.
Right.
Proven way
Right.
to build wealth. Proven, absolutely. Now the other thing about it is you don't have to take that money.
Right.
Right? So what if you said, hey, let that money roll. I want that money to go into the next property.
Right.
So you started off with $10,000. That's what you had to start off
Right.
with.
Right.
You left it in there for 5 years. You were getting your dividends, and you said, by the way, let's say you have all these out.
Right.
You said, hey, let the dividends ride. Keep the dividends too. So you started off with $10,000. You were getting dividends. After 5 years, we sold the property. That $10,000 turns into $50,000. Let's say I'm just making up numbers
Right.
now.
Right. Right.
Now you could take that $50,000 and say, hey, now I want to invest the $50,000.
Right. Right. Right.
This is how you build wealth.
Right.
And you could say, invest that $50,000, but you know what? I want to use some of that money while I'm living. So we'll put the $50,000 in, but I'll take the dividends, the monthly
Right.
dividends, so I have it add to my income while I'm here. But that $50,000 is still growing.
Still growing.
So this is a proven wealth builder, and we want to make it available to our community.
Right. Right.
I want to say one other
No,
thing.
go ahead. You're fine.
When I say that, here's something that I guarantee you our audience doesn't know.
Right. Okay.
There's a concept that's called, and so people sometimes use hidden languages.
Right.
So if you go on to a website and you look for a real estate syndication, the first thing you'll notice is they'll say accredited investors.
Right.
Nobody knows what that means.
Right. Right.
What
Right.
is an accredited investor? Nobody knows.
Right.
Well, that's intentional.
Right.
When I tell you what that means, you're going to be shocked.
Okay.
What that means, so there's an accredited investor and a non-accredited or unaccredited investor. An accredited investor is an investor who has at least $1 million in net worth already.
Right.
And there's an income of either, if they're single, an income of 150,000 or 300,000
Right.
if you're married, somewhere in that ballpark. In other words, accredited investors are people who are already wealthy. So most of the real estate syndication firms only invite or allow investors, accredited investors, to invest. This is why you never heard of real estate
Right,
syndication.
right.
This is why our community never heard of it. It's not coincidence.
Excuse me.
It's intentional.
Intentional, right.
So if you're not an accredited investor, if you're not already a millionaire,
Right.
you don't have access to these opportunities.
Right.
So, One Tribe, there is a loophole. There are loopholes,
Okay.
and you can set your company up to take advantage of those loopholes
Right.
and offer these opportunities to non-accredited investors.
Right.
But you have to set your company up a certain way.
A certain way.
There's
Okay.
specific loopholes you have to jump through, which we did, and we set it up. Now, even if you jump through those loopholes and you set it up where you can have non-accredited investors or middle class people involved,
Right.
you can only have a certain number.
Right. Right.
Why? Only a certain number. So
right.
each year we can only have 35 non-accredited investors invest in our properties.
Right. Right.
So I wanted to share that point just so our audience knows
Right.
that poverty is not a coincidence.
Right. Right.
It's by design.
By design. Right. Right.
But with hard work, ingenuity,
Right.
and unity, and working together, we can work through it.
Work through it. I think I want to do this, right? It's a recipe because sometimes it's not that I don't have enough information. And Keith, sometimes it's not because I don't have a plan. I have the information, I have a plan, but what I hear you're talking about is the execution of the information and the plan that can make me successful. Now, when you were talking, man, I went right to the Bible because you're talking about principles. And what he told us to be fruitful and multiply. We think about just having children and so forth, but that's in my finances as well. It's
right.
time for us to be fruitful and multiply in our finances because he told me that we're supposed to be the head and not the tail.
Right.
So what you're talking about is biblical principles that I need to apply to my life and say, you know what, I love this word that you said though, or these words. You said poverty mindset. So it's about what I think that's going to make a difference because sometimes my own thinking can sabotage where I need to go.
Yeah.
And Keith, we want to talk about this though. Talk to those that are going into a land of Canaan and see success as the giant and afraid to go into that land. Because a lot of people are afraid to do something that they have never done before.
Well, you know what? Wait a minute. The poverty mindset that you mentioned in your brain, the way a person thinks
Yes.
makes all the difference in the world. And I'll say this. I have a friend who I won't mention their name.
Right.
But I was talking to him the other day.
Yes.
And he was saying to me, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this thing. I'll just say it. We play golf.
Okay.
Right. So I have a friend I golf with, and there's these golf carts that you can put your golf bag on.
Yes.
And they just it's automated where it goes by itself.
Right.
And there's some that cost you can buy some used for $50, $100,
Right.
or you can buy the real fancy ones
Right.
that do all kinds of other things for $4,000 or $5,000.
Right.
And this was a young man in his 30s
Yes.
compared to me young, and he said, I got to get me one of those. He's planning to spend $4,500 on a golf cart.
Right.
So that mindset.
Mindset.
I'm playing golf with him, so I'm not there to chide him and say, hey,
Right.
why don't you take that money, let's invest it,
Right,
and
right.
turn that $4,000 into $50,000.
Right.
And without, but that is an example of what you think about, what we're thinking.
Right.
So there's a lot of people in our community are just thinking about consumerism.
Right.
And what happens there, as you know, Wayman, is it's all about instant gratification. So we have to move. We have to move the mindset from the instant gratification to delayed or long-term gratification.
Right.
So it's a mindset shift. But if you're used to you just have to recognize where you are. You and I, Wayman, are very, very, very similar, and we've been to the instant gratification mindset. We know what that's all about.
Right.
But when you shift, your brain actually changes.
Right.
Your brain changes. I used to smoke cigarettes.
Right.
Cigarettes are the ultimate instant gratification tool.
Right.
You know, you smoke, you don't feel right for some reason, and you know, I just got to get a cigarette. As soon as you take that puff, you get that nicotine, instant, boom, I'm great, I'm good now.
Right.
Whereas, but we know. We're killing ourselves.
That's right.
We know it. But right now I feel great. So I'm not worried about later on. So I just want to feel good right now.
Right.
So the challenge we have is, how do you move from the instant gratification mindset?
We were talking earlier about culture and how certain cultures have you believe in certain things. I'm not going to focus on one particular culture because we're talking about all cultures.
Right.
And we can just throw out their belief systems and certain things we eat and certain things we won't tolerate and certain things we do tolerate. Let's say if I was Hispanic, I would love to eat plantanos. Black, greens, and so forth. If I'm Italian, pasta, and so forth and so forth. I don't want to try anything else outside of that because it's foreign to me. I don't want to try those other cultures food-wise. Well, can I use myself as a perfect example? I thought that couscous and hummus, cucumbers and celery were for other people.
Right.
I'm like, man, I'm not eating that. But when I was eating the other food that my culture taught me, it was detrimental to my health.
Right.
Wayman, you're borderline diabetic, hypertension, and so forth and so forth. And I stayed with that cultural belief until my eyes opened up to the possibility of living or eating something that was going to change my life and benefit my life. So now I love hummus. I love couscous, you know.
Right.
And you look at that, you're like, man, those are some grains and oats and everything else. But I want to flip that because what you're talking about, our culture says that I can't not make 6 figures. Our culture says that I can't even make 7 figures.
Right.
Because of my background, because of where I grew up, and
Right.
plus I don't know the language. But if you're open to what One Tribe Properties is saying, you can be successful because you opened your mind to another delicacy.
Yes. And to add to that, not only can you make money. So we set One Tribe Properties up because you often hear, and I'm sure you hear people talk about passive income.
Right.
And there was another conversation I was having, and this was with a family member, and one of my family members said, "Yeah, you know what? My son is he wants to get some passive income so he's gonna buy an apartment building, and you know the rent will be passive."
Right.
And I didn't say it to him, but I was thinking to myself, that's not passive.
Right.
You buy an apartment building, even though he was talking about like a 5-unit apartment building, not that big, just 5 units.
Okay.
You buy an apartment building, that is work.
Right.
Somebody's
right.
So we set One Tribe up as true passive income for you. So what we mean by that is so you know, real life example. We just bought a 34-unit apartment building in Syracuse, New York.
Right.
And we've got investors. So the investors that invest in that apartment building, we hired a property management company that manages it. They collect the rent. They fix everything. I manage the property management company. You know, I check on them, make sure that everything is going right. The investors don't have they don't have to worry about fixing a sink, or if someone called them in the middle of the night because the breaker broke, or the police are at the building, so you got to come down. No, that is true. It's true passive income. So to your point of saying, hey, you know what, building wealth and trying to do all those things, we wanted this to be set up so that you can build wealth while you're sleeping.
Why are you sleeping?
Right? While you're sleeping. All you got to do is, you wake up and look at your dividend income.
Right.
So, and we've invested in a platform. So if you go to www.onetribeproperties.com.
Yes. Okay.
You'll see that we have the investor portal.
Okay.
Okay. If you are an investor, you can go to the investor portal. We invested in the whole platform, and it will show you, okay, here's the property you invested in.
Right.
Here's how that property is doing. Here's the dividends that have been paid out to you over time. Here's what your next dividend is going to be. You have your whole portal right in front of you. That's all. I mean, it's right there. It's passive.
Right.
It's there for you, and it's there for you to build wealth. So think about it like this: if you and you talked about this a minute ago, and I meant to, so I'm just kind of going back to it. But you were saying, building wealth not just for the future, which is great, building for your children, but for me too, right now, right? That is the other thing that we put in place.
Right.
So we got dividends for you right now. So let's say Wayman says, hey, you know what? I want to do something for my children. My children can have something, my grandchildren. We got you.
Right.
But right now, you also, you need to live. So, you can have the dividends coming to you every month, and you can have that as added to your income.
Okay.
And while at the same time, your main investment is still in the property growing for your descendants.
Right.
Now, let's say you're gone, that investment goes to them.
Right.
As you designed it, the dividends and all. So you're having the dividends while you're living and while you're here, and it helps you do better.
Right.
And your children and grandchildren can do better.
Well, you know what, man? I know that we might be almost out of time, but Keith, I really enjoyed this conversation, man, because I'm sitting here. I'm like, yo, this conversation is so informative with a lot of information.